Salve. Nella conferenza stampa che abbiamo tenuto insieme a Bruxelles il 1 marzo, il mio collega Stasys Jakeliūnas, lituano e membro del gruppo dei Verdi, ha esposto con grande dovizia di particolari le problematiche che riguardano il tema della ricerca gain of function, cioè la ricerca che va ad aumentare l'infettività o l'aggressività di determinati virus o agenti batterici in modo da essere più pericolosi, più dannosi e quindi poter essere utilizzati come armi biologiche. Questo tipo di ricerca si è svolto in tutto il mondo per tantissimo tempo. Il governo Obama l'ha vietato negli Stati Uniti e poi è stato continuato anche con finanziamenti americani in paesi terzi in cui questo divieto non esisteva. Il laboratorio di Wuhan, ad esempio, ha ospitato delle ricerche appunto finanziate proprio dal governo statunitense che non sarebbero state ammissibili e legittime in territorio americano. Noi sappiamo bene quanto questo sia un tema delicato e quanto siano gravi i rischi di fuga dai laboratori, laddove i sistemi di sicurezza non siano adeguati e sufficienti, insomma, a impedire i rischi di incidenti, perché chiaramente la fuoriuscita di uno di questi virus molto potenziati e quindi molto pericolosi può essere una gravissima minaccia per la salute non solo degli stessi ricercatori che lavorano in questi laboratori, ma di chi sta intorno e di chi viene a contatto comunque con questi agenti virali o batterici. Questi incidenti sono già accaduti più volte, i rischi ci sono e poi sappiamo bene che queste armi poi laddove possono essere usate come armi proprio, il rischio è gravissimo perché nel momento in cui questi patogeni vengono messi in circolazione, fermare poi questa circolazione diventa davvero complicato se non impossibile. E le ultime ricerche hanno dimostrato che il virus del SarsCov2 con tutta probabilità è uscito da un laboratorio, in quanto ha una struttura che lo rende identificabile esclusivamente come un virus sintetico di sintesi, quindi artificiale e non naturale. La tesi che sia appunto stato creato nel laboratorio di Wuhan e quindi al momento quella ritenuta più attendibile anche dal governo americano. Vi invito a guardare questo video dove appunto il mio collega spiega con grande chiarezza e grande precisione tutti gli aspetti di questa storia. Grazie.
According to the recent story at the Wall Street Journal, the United States Energy Department has concluded that COVID pandemic most likely started from the laboratory leak. It's not the first time such a conclusion or position is presented. For example, the former director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Robert Redfield, said on CNN in March 2021 that he believed the coronavirus that caused COVID-19 likely escaped from the lab in Wuhan. In addition, Federal Bureau of Investigation also concluded later in 2021 with moderate confidence that the virus first emerged accidentally from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Yesterday, the FBI director publicly confirmed such a position on one of the U.S. TV programs. However, the United States intelligence agencies that were asked on May 26, 2021 by President Biden to provide their opinion on origin of virus did not confirm such a position. So there is no consensus, and the U.S. administration publicly announced that more work needs to be done. Interestingly, on the same day, May 26, 2021, Facebook stopped censorship of the stories on the origin of virus. So is it coincidence? And why is it so difficult to come up with a definite conclusion, not only in the United States, but also at the WHO? And why at the European Union almost nothing is being done to find out the origin of the virus that was related to the massive economical losses, health problems, and massive deaths, censorship, as mentioned before, and massive abuses of human rights? My guess, there are at least two reasons for that. One, possibility that this work on viruses is linked to dangerous dual purpose, that means military and civil experiments called gain-of-function experiments conducted around the world, including apparently at the European Union as well. And the second reason, funding sources of this work on viruses at Wuhan Institute of Virology. Let me briefly go to the first half of 2020, when we first heard about this COVID-19 pandemic. On April 17th, 2020, the late Professor Luc Montagnier, who won the Nobel Prize for discovering the virus behind AIDS, so he was knowledgeable, and his specific area was structures of viruses, told that virus that caused COVID-19 pandemic was man-made. He was ridiculed right away because there was already a so-called scientific consensus on the origin of virus. This consensus, however, later proved to a large extent to be a fabrication. So what about this man-made virus? What is this? He was referring most likely to gain-of-function experiments, as I mentioned. They are conducted in order, and listen to this, to boost the infectivity and lethality of a pathogen, such a virus. Let me refer you to the presentation of 5 years earlier, January 16, 2015, by Mark Lipsitch, professor in the Department of Epidemiology at the Harvard School of Public Health. The presentation here, it's publicly available, is called Risks and Benefits of Gain-of-Function Experiments on Potential Pandemic Pathogens. According to him, these experiments are very dangerous, potentially violate Nuremberg Code. They were stopped for some time by the US administration because of some of these concerns. There were a number of accidents around the world, and among actors in his presentation that are involved in funding such experiments, a number of states, including the European Union itself, and among private actors who fund these experiments, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. As we know, Bill Gates and his organizations are all around this pandemic right from the start. Simulation games, pandemic management, vaccines, advising to the European Commission even. So before going to the second element, funding of these experiments at Wuhan, let me go back to the so-called consensus on origin of the virus. On February 19, 2020, 27 scientists published a letter in the oldest and what was supposed to be the most respected medical journal in the world, The Lancet, funded 200 years ago. These scientists wrote, and I quote, "We stand together to strongly condemn conspiracy theories suggesting that COVID-19 does not have a natural origin." What transpired later that the initiator and the architect of this letter was Peter Daszak, president of the US-based non-profit organization called EcoHealth Alliance. This organization seems to be at the center of the controversy regarding inconclusive research on virus origin and was involved in financing some of the work at Wuhan lab. According to this story of 16th of December 2020, at the independentsciencenews.org, Peter Daszak's EcoHealth Alliance has hidden almost 40 million in Pentagon funding. So US administration was involved in funding that. Earlier this month, the House of Republicans at the US Congress finally started the investigation into origins of COVID-19 by issuing a series of letters to current and former Biden administration officials for documents and testimony. I think the European Parliament needs to do much more work. The mandate at the special COVID committee is very, very narrow, doesn't include these questions I presented here. So we have to push for more research and more answers. Thank you.